Might staring at a painting affect the way that you see the world? This is just one of the things I speak about today with artist Ruthia Pak Regis, a Canadian painter who's been active in the Toronto art scene for over 20 years. She's had numerous exhibitions, solo and in group projects, as well as a residency in Italy, a past president of the Toronto Heliconian Society, and on top of that, she has a master's degree in theology. So we speak a lot about the intersection of Christian spirituality, art, beauty, and what it might mean to have a more meditative and contemplative way of being. I think you'll really enjoy this. She opens up a bit about what it means to be an artist and a Christian, and it leads to some fascinating conversation. I hope you agree. Thanks for listening. Hi, Ruthia. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Jonathan.
I'm always curious about people's journeys in their vocation. So, how did you become an artist in the first place?
I just always knew when I was a kid, even though I didn't really know what the word meant. And of course, I wanted to be a teacher at some point, a lawyer, a counselor, all these other things, but none of it stuck really. But the artist thing, it's a weird question because to become an artist, I'm actually on sabbatical right now
Okay.
for my professional practice. And that question has been swirling around my head. Do I still call myself an art? Like, I'm not there yet. It's taking a long time to really let go of it all in my mind. I've been toying with the thought, can I stop calling myself an artist? It's scary. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, the word artist has been problematic in the past as well, because for a number of years, I started calling myself a painter and I wouldn't use the word artist. And then, but then other people tell me about the characteristics of artists. And then I think, oh, there's too much there that connects in the way that I operate.
Hmm.
How did I become an artist? By doing, I guess.
By doing, sure.
By doing.
Yes.
That's the short answer.
I think you're unique, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because you also have a not only a fine arts degree, but a master's in theology, right? So when
Yeah,
did art and theology start to connect?
right. I think that was such a hard situation for me because I was also a part of a church community where there was no talking about art. There were no group trips out to art galleries. I mean, my first time in a commercial art gallery was in university because it was a requirement.
While you were doing your
Yes.
arts degree, wow, wow,
Everything was just by the seat of my pants. But so in school as well, I found it to be very anti God, the way the lectures were talking, even when we were studying religious art, the language would be assuming God did not exist or that it was some kind of myth.
hmm.
And that I think intellectually you're a little bit lower if you kind of believed in those things. And so that's how it was in university. And then it was very separate. Church all my life on the one side, and then this other thing that I couldn't stop, even if I tried.
Yeah,
You know, I just applied to one program in one school, and that was it. If that didn't happen, I don't know. I don't know what was going to happen. I would think about it when I got there, but it was a no-brainer. Yeah, so it was very, very separate. But I think there was always kind of like an underlying feeling that they ought to be together.
hmm.
So I did kind of try to see, are there other people like me? I didn't find anybody while I was in school, but
Okay,
um, eventually I did connect with Imago.
okay,
I don't know if you know, it's a national Canadian arts organization
hmm.
and and also Christian based, and they they support artistic projects. They support artists with, I think just a sense of like knowing that what you're doing is worth it. Like John Franklin is the executive director and he has been really, really amazing. So I met him once right after I graduated. And then even then it didn't really gel at that point, but very slowly that kind of began the journey of slowly meeting other artists who took their faith seriously, but
Hmm.
also their art. So I found that to be the hard part. really finding that and then seeing it lived out in somebody else's life as well. And there's a lot of people like that.
Hmm.
There is this other art organization I joined for a while before they disbanded. They were based in America, but they had artists all over the world.
Okay.
And I think their motto was serious faith, serious art, something
Hmm.
like that. And bringing all of that together was a very long and slow process. And biblically, there are a few passages that just make it, when God is telling the two guys how to make the
Yeah,
temple
yeah,
in
yeah.
Moses' time, just the detail, it's a little, it's obviously different from what I do, but it was worth writing down, you know,
Yeah.
the rest of us to read all these years.
Hmm.
That
And
meant something.
and they had a
Yeah,
special like spirit anointing, right? It says the spirit came
exactly.
upon them to
Yeah,
create. How did you
yeah.
start studying theology then after your fine arts degree?
Right. So I was working at that time in a church. I had been volunteering in the church for a very long time. And then a few years of working full time, and I realized I needed a little bit more. My interest in what faith was, my questions about God and church. Um, it wasn't really, I was in an immigrant church, so I don't know if language had something to do with it because my Korean isn't very good. But I wasn't finding, I guess, teaching or things where I can really explore what faith is.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I was working downtown already. U of T was not far. I could
Okay.
do it part time. So it took me, I think, 6 or 7 years to do a 2 year program part time. And that's how I got into theology.
Hmm.
And
Very
that
cool.
was really, really good. That was so good because it upended some of the things I grew up with, which was great.
Hmm.
And I think developing a faith that is truly my own, no matter, really knowing what I believed, and also being aware of the things that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
I can change my opinion on this later. That's fine. I think the theological education really helped that. And I loved it, actually. I just loved
Hmm.
being exposed to. I had a Roman Catholic professor. I had an Orthodox professor. Like, because of the situation at U of T with Toronto School of Art, with the many different denominations there,
Hmm.
that was an amazing resource during that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And were you painting as well at that time?
I was painting all the way through. I've been painting
Okay.
since high school. I mean, with
Okay.
some gaps, and when I had the babies and things like that.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I
yeah.
noticed on your work is represented by the Roberts Gallery. Is that right?
It's the oldest commercial gallery in Canada.
And on your artist description, I saw that you mentioned spiritual disciplines, how your art and spiritual disciplines, you try to intertwine them. What does that
Yeah.
look like in practice, and how did that develop?
So I don't try to intertwine them as much as just noticing that if I'm trying to practice a discipline of prayer or service or giving up or repentance or whatever it is within my heart, it just so happened that as my painting practice developed and I would approach, you know, a time of painting or a medium, whether it's pen and ink or paint or whatever it is, it's the same,
Hmm.
sitting there, being receptive, being open, not trying to have an agenda. That ruins a painting so quick in my experience.
Okay.
If you have an idea of what it's supposed to look like, at least with my kind of practice, it wrecks it.
Yeah.
And so I find that's the same with my spiritual discipline. I can't have an agenda. It's not my agenda.
Hmm.
I can only be the best that I can be before God. And I find that to be true with whatever church thing, faith thing there is, or whatever art thing there is. So I found if I was developing that more in my painting, it would obviously impact my life of faith and back and forth. So it really
Okay.
does become one.
Good. So it's not so much an intentional thing, so much as
No,
an
it can't be.
organic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
No.
And did that develop smoothly over the years? Like when did you start to notice this integration?
Maybe about 10 years ago or 15. I don't know. The years are going by really fast. I don't have anything in front of me to tell me which paintings I've done in what year, but
Okay.
it's been a while. It wasn't soon after school. I had been painting for some time before I
Hmm.
noticed that. And one uh, event that took place was that I had done a show, and I had a friend who is a spiritual director who saw this show, and she really thought the paintings would lend themselves well to Visio Divina.
Hmm.
And then that kind of opened more of an overt connection between the paintings themselves and um, like a spiritual discipline for it. Just kind of expanded what faith and art could be for me. I
Hmm.
mean, before that, I think much of it was quite personal. And then now it moves beyond that, but at the same time has nothing to do with me, which is
Hmm.
great.
Could you explain Visio Divina for anyone not
Hmm.
familiar with that?
So Lectio Divina is more common for people to know, which is a process of, I think they say, holy reading,
Yes, yes.
sacred reading,
Hmm.
and then basically the same thing, but with an image. So
Okay.
holy seeing. I don't feel comfortable myself leading those sessions so much. I've
Hmm.
done it once maybe, but usually I'm present while somebody else leads it.
Okay.
And it's really the last time this happened was actually just maybe last month. We at our church have a drawing drop in,
Okay.
and right before Easter we had our drawing drop in. But because it was Easter weekend, why not also integrate some Visio Divina? Because people were wondering about it already. And so Mark, my husband, who is the priest at our church, he led it. Um, we were all surprised. Yeah. Yeah, the painting, one of my paintings that were in the Visio Divina series, we actually made cards, Visio Divina cards as well at that time. So I brought those in. I brought the one original painting that had not been sold from that series in. And it's just, an abstract painting, mostly white, black with bits of green and blue. And you can see maybe the form of a tree or two. And
Hmm.
it's quite abstract compared to what I do now. Um, And Mark led us through the process of just calming down, focusing, and seeing and taking notice,
Hmm.
and just being receptive, intentionally receptive, and what rises to the surface of our minds in that moment. And by the end of the session, I think everyone cried. It's
Wow.
just like is phenomenal. The painting itself is whatever. It's just, canvas image. But there's something about, what we see is important. The way we engage what we see is important.
Hmm.
And it's very tempting to just not notice anything.
Sure.
Go from walk from A to B. Who cares about the bushes like, or the
Yeah.
flowers, But to take even a moment to look at a flower, to me, is pretty much the same as Visio Divina.
Hmm.
And if you know that there can be a moment of receiving something, then you can make that space intentionally, right?
Hmm.
I think it is a bit magical. I think the Holy Spirit did show up.
That's
It
really
was
cool.
just very unexpected for everybody. It was
Yeah.
very unexpected.
Yeah. That's really cool. I can definitely see how um, disciplined viewing of art, like because you have to notice the details, right? Like I'm more of a person who when I was in Amsterdam, I went to the big art museum there, and I only
Mhm.
had one day, so I rushed through the whole
Yeah,
museum, which is just a travesty. But only taking like 15 seconds per painting, like that's
yeah,
some would argue it's not worth it, right? But that keen focus on a painting transfers into your day-to-day life of, like you said, stopping and looking at the flowers and the
yeah.
plants and having a contemplative presence about you, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Here at Bespectacled and Curious, we try to be faithful to the Bible and open to honest questions, because pretending you have it all figured out will get you nowhere fast. Subscribe and follow to join us on the journey.
So that kind of brings me to asking you about your paintings. So I think several of your paintings, obviously you've said you've done different things, but they're often described as abstract landscapes.
Right.
How did you come to that like combination between realism and abstract and emphasis on the natural
Mm-hmm.
environment versus so many other things you could paint and observe, right?
Right. Yeah. I think there's so many different stories interlaced here. But once at school, we're not learning how to paint, right? Not really. We're not learning skills. That kind of teaching for art is, at the time, passe. So by the time I graduated, I was already leaning into abstraction, but just felt a little bit phony.
Mhm.
And so I ended up doing paintings that looked much more realistic. I had to prove it to myself, I think, that I could create bodies of work that was actually built on something. I needed a foundation. So then I did a show of skyscapes and landscapes, and which all look quite realistic, and then a show of portraits, and then that was done. And after that, maybe just kind of unconsciously, I gave myself then permission to be more free
Okay.
in how much I abstract things. And then when it comes to the subject matter being landscape, there's something about nature for me always.
Hmm.
First off, sky and trees from when I was a kid. And then I think in high school, I got one small compliment from an art teacher about, how well I painted the sky. And so after I graduated university, I think one of the first series of paintings I did were of skies
Okay.
because it was easy. I could do it, and just kind of enjoying the process.
Hmm.
So from the sky, then I traveled down to the earth and trees and water, bodies of water. Not as much, but yeah, here and there. But within that whole period, the thing that really emerged quite quickly was my interest in light and dark and
Hmm.
what that means also psychologically, and biblically as well. What does the light mean? What does the dark mean? One of the things that I learned about the dark through painting was that being in the dark is not always bad.
Hmm.
You know, usually it's very easy. You're in the light, then that's a good thing. You're in the dark, that's a bad thing. But there was a verse somewhere in the Bible that was talking about being in the darkness. And it did not talk about us stepping out of the darkness, but instead God coming to us in the darkness.
Hmm.
That's a good thing. And so, like, there's, stuff like that that ruminate around in my head while these
Sure.
paintings get done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at quite a few of your paintings, and there definitely is a focus on light and shadow. For
Mhm.
amateurs like myself, amateur art appreciators, I can't even draw anything. So I'm just amazed by artists. Like, what is the actual process like? Do you take a photo of the landscape, or you just buy it and you decide this is what I'm going to paint? What does it look like from the beginning of an idea to a canvas at the
Right.
gallery?
So for me, I do work from photo references, and but they're all my photos, or
Okay.
maybe Mark, my husband's photos, but it's where we go. So we have
Mm,
some places where we go very regularly, like the family cottage on Mark's side,
okay.
and then you know where we travel to as a family. So there are some paintings based on Scotland and Italy, and
Mm,
um, but what I do is I have a big box of photo references, and I sometimes I use them over and over. Sometimes I cut them up and put them back together. But mostly I'm just looking for. So I would start off probably looking at couple hundred photos, like just over and over going through it. It is a bit of a process. And then from there, it gets whittled down. And then I might have like a little window that I've made out of a piece of paper. And if I have a piece of like a stretcher or a canvas of a certain shape, because sometimes if I'm trying to save money, I can't be too picky
Sure,
about
sure,
the
sure.
shape or size. Like if I happen to come across something or I have something in the basement that I want to use,
Okay.
then I can cut the little window to that proportion.
Hmm.
And then I will then go searching, you know. And what it is something about a composition of light and dark that really just seems a bit magical, you
Hmm.
know. Like a lot of things don't make sense in the material world without our imagination or
Mm-hmm.
our kind of just special sense of pleasure. So doing that, then it whittles those photos down even more. And then I will
Okay.
sit with them for a really long time. They'll just, they're just scattered everywhere in my studio. And I live with them. And after that, there's even more of a whittling down process. And then I might get it down to, if I'm working on a show, then I'll get it down to maybe about 15, 20 pictures. And then um, if I'm just working on one painting at a time, which I've started doing more, like one or two paintings at a time, which I just started doing that a few years ago, then it has to go down to even more. And I'll
Hmm.
keep adjusting and playing with it. And there will be a conversation with myself. Why is this special? You know, and
Yeah.
with the practice, the experience of having done this so many times, I can kind of at least track with my brain whether it's going to look good
Hmm.
at a certain size or not, or on canvas or not. So there's that practical end of things as well.
And then you pick up the brush, and how long would it take you to paint?
Yeah, I don't do sketches. I rarely do sketches in a book
Okay.
before painting. And the painting takes me a long time, not because I'm painting for the whole time. So I feel very comfortable with doing a really big painting in about 6 months.
Okay.
I know that's really slow, but I have to live with the thing. I still fight with that with myself, whether that's a good thing or not.
Yeah.
But I think things change when you live with it. So, after a
Hmm.
couple months, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I got to do it this way.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have rushed paintings, of course, with deadlines. And I do something in a month or 2 months. And
Uh-huh.
then, it'll get shown. And then after a couple months, I'm like, I'd rather have, I'll just go back in and change it anyway. It doesn't matter. But I feel much
Okay.
more like something once it's marinated in a real life situation, then
Hmm.
I feel more confident about it being
Sure.
good or, you know,
Sure.
whatever the word is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I respect that, especially in our time, right, where everything is about efficiency and having a product for someone else to consume. So,
Right.
is there? I mean, you've kind of alluded to a tension between like practicalities and just immersive creativity. What does
Mhm.
that look like in terms of working with a gallery or trying to sell paintings? Mentioned deadlines. Like, how do you balance as a creative the reality versus the
Yeah.
process?
Okay. So I have two teenage daughters and, I have a part-time job now, which I hadn't for a long time. But now I have a part-time job. So I have never been satisfied with the way I do things.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, I don't know, maybe the past 5 years, I've been trying to tell myself I can be satisfied,
Hmm.
but it hasn't stuck. I think I'm closer to it now, though, because I mean, this isn't about just me and my art. Like, God is doing something. Like, I do think He leads me
Hmm.
and He puts me in places, no matter how aware of it I am or not, I think there are reasons why, like, I got sucked into this current job of administration at my church, where I think God made it happen because it wasn't, yeah, just a simple process.
Hmm.
There are a lot of things to consider. Yeah, well, I had been an independent artist for so long because when I was in school, the commercial gallery system was a little bit poo-pooed on,
Okay.
and my personality as well. I was never interested in being commercial per se,
Hmm.
and then but it turned out in the end that some years later I met somebody who worked for one of the big commercial galleries in Toronto, and she just gave me some background information about how things operate. And she said, "What do you want to do?" And then I said, "I just want to paint. I want people to buy them. That's it. That's all I want." And she said, "Well, then what you want is a commercial gallery. That's what you want."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then that started the process of me really opening myself up to that possibility. And then that's how things with Roberts happened. The gallery relationship is my first one, so I didn't know what to expect. They are amazing on a personal level. But in terms of selling, you know, I don't know, my sales have been really low. And my goal for myself has always been like, if I can feel like I've made it, that would only be because I've made it the same amount of money as another person would have in a minimal full time, like, so minimum wage full time job.
Okay.
Like, if that lined up, then I would feel like a success. And so that's kind of what I was working towards, but that's not right.
Mm.
I've let go to that's not true for me anymore. This is fresh news. It's not true for me anymore. Um, I
Yeah,
don't know.
thanks for sharing that. I think a lot of people can relate, right? Artists and even I was thinking about when you're talking about your process with writing. Like I dabble in writing, and I'm trying to write a dissertation, and
Mhm.
it's like you could always add another footnote, or you could always make things sound just a little smoother. And it's like, well, no, you actually have to submit something at some point, even if you
Yes.
do go back. Do you have any advice for maybe young creatives, young artists? Like, what do you wish you knew 20 years ago or when you were starting out?
Yeah. I think that doing is so important. You have to do it. And I think thinking about the exterior part of your personal painting process, I think, like, don't think about that too much. I don't know. Like, thinking about marketing your art can really take over your art pretty quickly, I think.
Hmm.
And that I don't see how that helps a personal painting practice, because I have found that the more personal I can be with my own painting, if the place I start at is extremely personal, more people can relate to it. So it's like
Hmm.
an inverse kind of situation that I've just seen to be true,
Sure.
which in itself, like, I can just sit with that for a while because that's very interesting to me,
Yeah, it
because you're
is.
not trying to create something to satisfy or draw in a whole bunch of people. Like, to me, that's not a process. Then I don't know what you're doing. Like, that's not really about your art, right?
Hmm.
That's more about creating a product, right?
Hmm.
If that's the strategy, right?
Yeah.
But if it's really about digging in and drawing out from within yourself the most deepest part of yourself, it's really interesting. I find that there's a more powerful connection with more people in the
Hmm.
end.
Yeah.
Um,
Versus if someone at the gallery said, these types of paintings are selling, do this and just do it quickly or something.
right? Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a great thing for people who want to do that, right? Like, this is one thing about art I really like. There's so many different types of art, so
Hmm.
many different approaches. What is it that you want to do in any given time? And you could always change your mind. You could always do something and then change your mind to something else.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think there's competition in the art
Hmm.
world. And I have met people who seem to approach it like a competition, but I don't see it that way. It's
Hmm.
really wide.
Yeah.
Everyone can do it in the way that they want to do it. But obviously what I've shared today is what how I do it,
Sure.
you know.
It does sound, I mean, even with writing as well, it can be very vulnerable, right? Like what you said about the deepest part of
Yeah.
yourself, you're starting there. Have you ever like kept a painting away from a show because you just think this is too vulnerable, or what is the process like of being willing to share it with the world?
Okay, so I have found myself to be a little different in this area because I'm not a private person. So it didn't matter to me how vulnerable it was. It could still
Hmm.
just buy a piece, there's more where this came from. I can always keep painting. Like I don't have a need to hold on to much
Okay.
at all. But there have been, I did do a series of paintings based on my family
Hmm.
where I've kept some of the ones where it's like my tiny baby girls in the bathtub or, just doing their little baby thing. And those
Mhm.
are hung in our home.
Yeah, that's
Would
cool.
I sell it if somebody wanted to buy it?
Okay.
Maybe.
There's the practicalities once again coming through.
Well, yeah, and it's just I'm not really married to it.
So when someone encounters your work, let's say they head over to, is it DuPont Street, right? The Roberts Gallery's on?
DuPont Street, just east of Christie on the south
Yes.
side.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So someone stumbles into the gallery, looks at your paintings. What is your
Mhm.
hope that they will experience as they encounter them?
Well, one of the best compliments is when people talk about how the painting has changed their perceptions.
Hmm.
So, somebody once told me that every time they go hiking now in the forest, all they see is like my painting.
Wow.
So
Wow, that is high praise.
to me, that wow, that is very, very high praise. And also, another person once said that, well, this was in this case, it's a portrait, and she didn't like it at first,
Oh, no.
but over a few months, she really started to appreciate it. Yeah, and actually like it. So that's a big deal. Like
Yeah.
if the way you're seeing changes, and it's
Hmm.
because of a painting, that's weird, but okay, that happens. I like the idea of a world where we're all willing to change.
Hmm.
So I think art really helps with that.
Yeah. And that takes me back to, I wanted to ask you a little more about your experience with theology and Christian art. You mentioned having professors in the Catholic and Orthodox
Mhm.
traditions. And I'm thinking the Orthodox, right, they really emphasize icons and visual elements in worship. And more
Yeah.
traditional churches, will have the stereotypical stained glass windows and the architecture is doing something. Whereas, newer churches, especially Protestant, low church, it's more pragmatic. It's functional,
Mhm.
warehouse-like community centers. There's not a lot of beauty necessarily.
Right.
What are your reflections on that? How important is beauty for the Christian worship experience?
Right. I do think it has to make sense for the congregation or the history of the congregation. Um, so whether you're from a Reformed background or Catholic or Orthodox, there, well, the one really, really nice thing about icons and like everything means something, you know?
Hmm.
The placement about of certain things within on the walls, it's amazing. I was in this Orthodox church, and I think it was Greece, and every wall, ceiling, everything was covered in some kind of image.
Hmm.
And then at the very top, you have Jesus, and then you've got, I can't remember the order, but there's a certain order of Jesus and apostles and angels and all this stuff. And us being on the lowest level of that worship space,
Hmm.
it's telling us that we have a place in this universe, this cosmos. And to me, that meant so much in that moment.
Yeah.
It's not this thing that's other and detached from me, looking at all this art, all this iconography. I'm a part of this thing.
Hmm.
And that's the way they view the worship space. Like, oh, that's mind blowing. It
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
but would that work for my parents? No, not really. They have a different sensibility. And again, open-mindedness and the way that art can bring. So this is where like Christian art, I don't like that term, but having art in Christian spaces is, I think, very difficult to put together in a way that makes sense for a body of believers.
Mm.
I think it's very nuanced. I think the approach, a lot of times in the 90s, let's say, has been very much kind of felt businessy, to sell something. We want to sell Christ. We want to sell the Bible. We
Yeah.
want to sell the faith, but how deep does that actually get into us? Like, how is that really a part of our worship? But with some of these older faith traditions, they have quite the foundation when
Hmm.
it comes to how the visual can impact the way we inwardly engage with God.
Hmm.
And oh, there are crazy stories all over the place within the wider church of how people have engaged with that. So, I mean, we have such a breadth of resources there. There's a church by Ossington and Bloor. It's a Catholic Ukrainian church. If you go inside, it's breathtaking.
Mm.
I don't know if anyone from Toronto, if they haven't been and they're interested in faith and art and stuff, I think that's well
Okay.
worth a visit.
I can resonate with what you're saying about the 90s style of where Christian art was almost just like a way to draw people. Like, let's
Yeah.
imitate art in the secular world just to get people through the door and then we'll sell them the gospel kind of thing. Versus the contrast of what you're saying, this ancient divine way of seeing that shows you your
Mhm.
place in the world, I guess, theologically. I'm glad you brought up the term Christian art because I was going to ask you about that. I like asking artists who are Christians, are you a Christian artist? What does that mean? Is it a helpful label?
Mm, no, I don't
Okay.
think it's helpful. I'm definitely Christian and I am an artist, maybe. And I'm definitely like my faith is way more important than, you know, being an artist,
Hmm.
which is, I think, what 2026 is about for me. I have to recover or really dig my heels into the primacy
Hmm.
of God and faith, and then see where all the other stuff falls around me, around the faith part of it.
Hmm.
But I don't like putting it together. I don't know what that is. Like, it's
Okay.
just sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Like, if someone approached you and like, oh, we've got this Christian art show, we need Christian artists, like, we need you to do, I don't know, Bible stories or like something overtly religious
Yeah.
Christian. Like, what is it about that that turns you off?
I mean, I have done that, and it's been amazing experiences to,
Okay.
one of the biggest projects that I've taken part in is called The Crossings, which was a few years ago. It was an outdoor Stations of the Cross where
Hmm.
each station was a different artist. And it was really probably the biggest art event, well, second biggest art event I've ever been a part of. Definitely the most special.
Hmm.
And that was, I think, my first time, because we were given a piece of scripture to then use as
Okay.
inspiration for the painting. So that was my first time doing that. And my station was Women of Jerusalem. That was amazing, that whole process. And I did that not because, like in my mind, not because I was a Christian artist, but is because I was an artist who had Christian faith.
Hmm.
Like, I think when you put the two words together, it becomes something else. And it has been something else. It really
Yeah.
has. We have a pretty big library of past Christian art. And so when you say that,
Hmm.
it's not like there's a vacuum for like what images are brought up in one's mind. There
Hmm.
we have quite the library of what that is already.
Sure.
And it is very different. Like, again, painting with an agenda. Like, that what's really funny is like the more I feel comfortable with the Holy Spirit leading me, the more I feel like there's way more freedom. and there's no agenda. Like, I can't have a personal agenda. It's just God's. Like, if it's mine, I think it turns pretty quickly. It starts to rot pretty quickly. And we have to be constantly connected with the living stream from God. It's got to be fresh all the time, and if it's stale, it's stale. And people know, we react against it, right?
That is helpful. I understand what you're saying, I think. I just have two more questions. I want to honor
Sure.
your time. Firstly, for someone who's maybe not super into art, or
Mm.
maybe they're just feeling rushed and they don't have this sense of sacred seeing, divine vision, how would you encourage them to appreciate art and appreciate beauty?
When I go into a gallery and there's a ton of paintings, I will not, I might do the speed through that you do, but make an effort with maybe one or two to spend decent time with. Yeah. And I think beauty and art, there is a lot of overlap, although there's a ton of art that tries not to be about beauty. Oh, open-mindedness is number one,
Okay.
because it's really easy to judge,
Yeah.
because so much of things is about whether I like it.
Mm.
Oh, I don't like that, and therefore I will not spend time with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that, you know? Yeah, even if you don't like it, maybe spend some time with it, see what happens.
Okay. So instead of asking, do you like the painting? What is the better question?
Or what's standing out to you,
Okay.
maybe.
Hmm.
Sometimes talking about it with someone else, like going with a friend or something, that
Yeah.
yields really nice conversations. I mean, with little kids, I will say, which one is your favorite in the room? And then why? Amazing conversations happen like that.
Mm.
Children are amazing. They just see things, they
Yeah.
feel things so clearly. That one is just like, no question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. And you've mentioned the importance of openness. You said the importance of being willing to change. What, in that spirit, what has made you curious and open lately?
Lately, ooh, okay, so this sabbatical. So the 1 year of not being a professional artist, or letting go of that. So it doesn't mean I can't draw or do anything creative. It just means I'm not thinking about the professional side of things at all. And that's been really hard. But I do think there is maybe something coming up where a part of me needs to break. And this whole thing is also like 5 years. It took 5 years to really admit or even entertain the thought of doing. Yeah, there were a lot of tears in
Mm.
realizing, maybe I became stale. Like, if I've been doing this for 25 years, pretty much 25 years, always thinking. So when the sabbatical started, it kind of loosely started in December. There was a feeling that it was right, that it was light, that it wasn't a burden,
Mm.
but it doesn't make it easy. Like, so when I said yes to this interview last night, I'm like, maybe I wasn't supposed to say yes because it's sabbatical, but because it was Jonathan, of course, it's just a conversation. Not really doing anything. It's just a conversation.
I do appreciate that.
It's a hard time of letting go, resetting. As
Mm.
one of the gallery people said to me, she was like, "You just need a reset." She was so kind.
Mm.
She just said, take as long as you need. We'll be here for you, or
Oh, that's
not,
nice.
whatever you choose. It's fine.
Okay.
The open-mindedness for that, after being a certain way for 25 years, is hard. That's
Mm.
not. But I know there need not be fear. Maybe I have some.
Well, thank you for your time. And yeah, I've really been provoked or, yeah, evoked by your art and by your thoughts. So I really appreciate you being so open with me. And I
Mm.
wish you all the best with the rest of your trip.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Jonathan, for making this easy.
Okay. Thanks, Ruthia.
If you're still listening, I'm touched. Thank you. Will you do me a favor? Just about nobody in the entire world knows about this podcast. Would you mind sharing it with one person you think will disagree with it? Or agree? It's up to you. See you next time on Be Spectacled and Curious. I'm Jonathan Tizick, signing off.